is my first LinkedIn Live. My name is Scott Baradell, for those who don't know me. I have a PR firm in Dallas that has about 30 folks. We have clients in Dallas, nationwide, some international clients. We focus specifically on technology, public relations. I also have a book coming out in the next couple of months called Trust Signals. It's specifically called Trust Signals, Brand Building in a Post-Truth World. And as we lead up to the book coming out, I've also got a whole blog called trustsignals.com where I've been writing about this topic. I thought I'd just share some of my learnings from running an agency for 15 plus years now and thinking about the future of the business and the direction it's going. The kind of information I'll be providing is I think useful to hopefully to all marketers, but I come at these things from the perspective of someone who's been a journalist and in the PR business for the last 30 years. So since the book is called Trust Signals, I thought I'd start by answering the question, what is a trust signal? Well, let's start with the book. I mentioned I've got a book coming out. I'm not Seth Godin, I'm not Malcolm Gladwell, I'm not Stephen King, and so I don't have a built-in audience. You don't know what to expect from a book that would be written by me. So spending time to read it, spending $20 to buy it, I've got to convince you why you would want to do that. So some of the things that I might do is, for example, have on the book jacket a compelling biography that really talks about how accomplished I am and all the things that I've achieved. And so I obviously know something that I might be able to share of value. In addition to the biography and description, glowing praise from the famous book blurbs from well-known people. For me, on my book jacket, Jeannie Dietrich, who you may know from the Spin Sucks blog. It's a very well-known, one of the best-known blogs in the PR business. She's providing an endorsement of the book on the book jacket. CEOs from companies like Trust Radius, the review site, Vinay Bhagat is leaving an endorsement quote. Trusted Site, which has done the McAfee security seal on websites. Their CEO is leaving a quote, and so forth. So people that, I've heard of this company, I've heard of this person. I don't know who Scott Baradell is, but these other sources are saying this book is good. Maybe I'll take a look at it. Amazon reviews. I obviously want 5-star Amazon reviews of the book, ones that are real. We know Amazon sometimes has a problem with fake reviews. They're working on it, but it's an ongoing challenge for them. But they eliminate a lot of actually real reviews that don't seem like they're coming from a place of substance, and they're just done to kind of gerrymander the process, I guess you'd say. So genuine, substantive book reviews on Amazon are a big trust signal. All right. If I've got friends, colleagues, others who are well-known marketers and PR people who could read and promote the book on social media, influencers, that is a trust signal. If I could get coverage in PR Week or O'Dwyer's or different trade publications or different media outlets about the book, these are all things that I will be doing, and then the kinds of things that any author has a book coming out, that particularly one that's not already well known, would use to try to build kind of a breadcrumb path of trust to where you're like, you know what, there's these kind of all stacked up, and now I built enough trust that I think it's worth spending my money and time to read this book. These are all examples of trust signals. Trust signals are the evidence points we use to convince someone to make a purchase or take an action. And online, trust signals have been around. I guess the industry term trust signals started with the early days of e-commerce, with things like the Better Business Bureau seal or the trustee seal, which were used to convince people to give over their credit card information to make a purchase online, when back in the days when people were a little more worried about that. Well, today, trust signals can be thought of as all the different places that people go online where they're either making a decision to either trust or not trust a brand. And the book is largely an effort to help synthesize the idea of how trust signals really are all meant to achieve the same thing. And so it's not good for practitioners of marketing or PR or agencies to just think in terms of a service or a specific slice of that. You need to think more holistically about it. So, for example, in the case of the book, if I didn't get any of those other things we've talked about, like reviews and influencer endorsements and quotes on the book, and I just got a nice story in PR Week, for example, would that be enough? Would that be enough to sell the book? Would that be enough to achieve my goals? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be nearly enough. So why on earth, when as I'm speaking as a PR firm owner now, why on earth, and when a client comes to me and says, we want media coverage, would I say, okay, where do you want the coverage? No, you shouldn't say that, because in this day and age when people are getting their information and are being influenced by so many different sources, you're setting yourself and them up for failure. If you agree to this kind of old-fashioned idea that there's these big media gatekeepers that are the arbiters of taste and trust and everything else, no, it doesn't work that way. It's very much a continuum today. So let me show you what I mean by this concept of a continuum. So basically, I want PR people to think beyond, and I know PR people talk about, oh, we don't just do media relations. Okay, well, what else do you do? Because the way you described it just sounds like marketing to me. I think PR people should be, PR should be defined as the art of securing trust at scale. And I think PR people should be the trust keepers for brands, the keepers of trust for brands. And to do that, you have to do a lot more for clients than get the media coverage. But from the same perspective of what PR has always been meant to do, which is to build trust, using the tools at our disposal today, you can have a much better and more holistic result for your clients. So let's look at there's a concept in the book called continuum of influence. All right. So we talked about that when we were going through the different elements of trust that I would try to secure in order to secure you as a buyer of my book. Let me give you another example. I think one of the best things that we can do as PR people or marketers or communicators is to think about our own purchases that we make and kind of reverse engineer how we got there. And the same elements that you used of trust to get you to that point, it's no different whether you're selling a car or a microwave oven or $1 million enterprise software. It's all the same. So for example, I mentioned the book, but we had a blog post for our Idea Grow blog written recently by Lori, who is very close, about 2 weeks away from having her first baby. And she wrote about her experience of buying a crib mattress for her soon to be arriving bundle of joy. And what was interesting about it is how much it paralleled how these concepts are talked about in the Trust Signals book. For example, a year ago, she and her husband were thinking about having a baby, but they obviously weren't in the market. She wasn't pregnant, but she came across an influencer who posted some stories about this crib mattress that she was really excited about. And she loved that the crib mattress was non-toxic. The safety of it was really something that came out. It was an expensive crib mattress, and Lori wasn't thinking of spending that kind of money, but it stayed in the back of her mind. And she started thinking about safety in her mattress. So then a year later, when it was time to start thinking about buying one, she couldn't remember what the name of that mattress was, the brand. She just remembered there's something safety in this crib mattress. So she Googled safest crib mattresses. And what popped up in the first couple of results was the brand that this influencer a year ago had endorsed, and then it came back to her. She made the connection. Oh, this is the one. All right. This is, so the endorsement from that influencer a year ago, well before she was thinking about a purchase, that's a trust signal. Google deciding based on inbound links, quality and relevance of the content, and so forth, all the tools that it uses, Google deciding that this mattress needed to be at the top of results for safest crib mattresses, that's a trust signal. So she's got Google putting at the top of results. She's got this influencer in the past who said good things about it. She does a little more research and she finds there's 2,000 online reviews that averaged up about a 4.8 to 4.9 rating, with all of these detailed stories from individual users that are talking about their experiences. Very compelling trust signal. Then she comes across the fact that a well-known Olympian, Shawn Johnson, had endorsed this mattress as well. Now, in the case of Shawn Johnson, it was probably a paid endorsement, but it was for her own baby. And she had some belief and some trust in this celebrity. And so even if she's paid, she still believed that this person would not endorse a product they didn't believe in. Therefore, it was a trust signal. Paid or unpaid, it's not about that. It's trustworthy or untrustworthy that matters today. And yes, there also was some coverage in the media. She's obviously reading more about media that covers families and babies and parenting. And in Parents Magazine, there was an article, a favorable article about this mattress as well. All of these were trust signals, and you can line them up from a year ago to today, and you can think of them as breadcrumbs of trust, breadcrumbs to purchase. All right. All of them, you can't single one out and say, this is the reason it happened. If Lori had this influencer endorsement in mind, but this brand had not paid attention to its Google presence, and it didn't appear on the first page results, what would Lori have done? She would have found another mattress that said it was safe, that Google ranked higher, so probably means safer, right? And the influencer endorsement goes away, and suddenly she's starting with what Google told her was the most trusted mattress for safety. You can take the Parents Magazine article, you can take the celebrity endorsement, the influencer endorsement. It's the collective impact of all these signals of trust, all these trust signals that led to purchase. So that's why I tell PR people, my goodness, why are you only worried about the Parents Magazine article? What the heck? How many people are going to buy the mattress just based on that? It's not enough today. All right. Maybe in the old days when there weren't online reviews and you just go to Consumer Reports and just buy your car based on that, but that's not today. That's not how it works. So you need a more well-rounded view of all the sources of influence that contribute to a purchase or other decision. So we talked about, I mentioned this continuum of influence. If we look at Lori, for example, Lori, my apologies for using you as an example so much in this without your permission, but don't sue me. But Lori started with family and friends, like most of us do. But she also turned to online reviews. And data shows that most people trust online reviews as much as they trust recommendations from family and friends today. And they're also very individualized, just like recommendations from family and friends. And then you've got, say, people who are maybe leaving a review, who are also have a social media presence. So let's say it's that goes beyond that individual endorser of a product, that individual positive review, but someone who's saying something good about you and also has a following. You can think of that as a brand ambassador. And then you move up the scale of influence. And for those who are in influencer relations, there's all kinds of breakdowns based on engagement with social media influencers: nano, micro, macro, mega, and so forth. So let's say we start with the nano influencers, go all the way up to the macro, mega influencers, until you get to tier one media. And you could think of tier one media and as being equivalent to mega influencers, analysts, or trade media as equivalent to macro. It's going to vary from product to product and brand to brand, but essentially, you've probably heard of the Kardashians, for good or ill. You've probably heard of the New York Times. What you haven't really done probably is thought of them as being the same thing in many ways. These are both mega influencers today for the right products. I had a client in oil and gas that got an exclusive opportunity for a feature story in the New York Times. They declined it, even though I think it was set up to be a positive story, because for their audience, they thought the New York Times had lost credibility and they didn't trust it. Because oil and gas is a conservative business, New York Times is no longer associated with the conservative side of the fence, right? Kardashians, probably a great place to get an endorsement for, fragrances, fashion, things that do with health and beauty, but maybe not the best endorsement for enterprise software, right? So these have big audiences. If your brand is geared to them, then it can be a great source of influences. But this individual review, if it's specific to the product that you're looking at and the experiences relate, the use case is similar, their concerns that they were that addressed were the same kind of concerns you have, that could be far more impactful than being mentioned in the New York Times, and probably your customer might never ever see that. All right. So this isn't enough. This isn't enough. This isn't enough. You have to look at every breadcrumb in that path of trust to purchase and cobble together that continuum of trust signals that are going to help you grow your business and your brand. And so when I talk to PR clients and they say, we want media coverage, I ask them, why do you want media coverage? And what they'll typically say is, we want visibility. We want awareness. But they don't want that. They don't want that. They almost never want that. Because if that's what they wanted, what they could do is target their audience properly. Look, digital gives you so many capabilities today that we didn't have before. Are you kidding me? And they increase every day. You can precisely target your audience. You can put ads in front of them, and you can follow them around everywhere we go. We all know that and have been annoyed by that, right? If I want awareness for my brand, that's what I'm going to do. If I want visibility for my brand, that's what I'm going to do. But guess what? You're probably just going to annoy people. What people come to us for and come to PR people for is to borrow the credibility that comes with that media coverage. They're coming to us for credibility, for authority building, for trust. So they're not coming to us, to PR people or to brand builders generally, for brand awareness. They're coming to us for brand trust. And once you've established trust, then once you do start getting those ads that are following you around everywhere online, you've already built a reservoir of goodwill. And it's just a nice reminder. Maybe if Lori had gone through all this path and hadn't made a purchase, but she went to the website of this mattress company, but she didn't make a purchase, maybe she got distracted, something else came up, and then they started following her around everywhere. Then it's not annoying. Then it's an important reminder to help close the deal on something she had already built trust in but hadn't closed the deal on. That's what you use those kind of ads for. So I guess the whole point of this conversation is talking about what trust signals are is to get a fuller view of what we as PR people should be doing for our clients and why it's ours to do and should be our mission to do. I don't see any difference today between getting media coverage for a client, getting a paid influencer deal with a client for a client when the influencer has credibility with their audience, setting up an online and managing an online review program. These are all sources of third-party credibility and third-party validation. Start thinking more broadly about the ways that you as a PR professional or a marketer can help establish that trust and credibility with your clients or for your company. And that is what a trust signal is. And that's why I think it's important and why I've written this book that is in the copy editing stage right now and should be coming out soon.